We have time for one more question. We're going to call up student Amy Conrad.
Good afternoon. Amy Conrad, criminal justice major here at CCC. My question for the candidates are, if you are elected, what do you think will be the biggest challenge or opportunity facing you as Secretary of State?
Thank you, Amy. So, I think we're back to you, Mr. Helen.
Let me be very clear. There are so many opportunities that we have. A core theme of my campaign is options and opportunities. It's something I'm talking about with young people, with new Minnesotans, immigrants, people with disabilities. This is an office that makes and ensures access to not just voting, but so many programs. And I need to use this time to talk about those that we have a lot of opportunity. I think it's very exciting. The challenges, obviously, as what would be the youngest elected statewide executive in the nation, people are going to expect me to be, behind the years or naive, any number of things they might think. So that's the challenge that I come in with. But the opportunities are there. We haven't mentioned the Business Services Division very much. There's been a lot of election talk, and I need to talk about the Business Services Division because, like Dan said earlier, that's 70% of the role of the Secretary of State. I ran into Mark Ritchie the other day down at the Wedge Co-op in Minneapolis, and we chatted briefly, and he confirmed that. I said, what's your daily routine like? What's the job like? I really want to know. And obviously, he brought up the business services. That's a huge function, and that's my priority coming in, is not voter registration, but business registration, because for the young people in this room, the students, immigrants who are coming to our country looking to integrate to society, contribute in the form of taxes and work within the community. It's great to see so many community development majors here. Obviously, respect the criminal justice work that's being done. Everything you're doing is for a reason. You're not just going to school, and you need to consider that each day you are getting an education. How did this change my trajectory for the rest of my life? Because you have enormous challenges that previous generations didn't have. It's very competitive out there. There's the student loan debt. There's, climbing a ladder, all those types of things. And you really need to evaluate, what do I want to do? If you want to participate in democracy, this office will help. We have opportunities. If you want to be a candidate, I absolutely want to encourage and help anyone who wants to be a candidate get to the level and go through the hoops that I've jumped through as a candidate myself to be able to do that. But the Business Services Division, which is where you file a business name, an entity type, whether you're a corporation, an LLC, if you're filing for an assumed name, maybe you're filing a cooperative or you're filing a nonprofit. Those are huge opportunities that this office has, and I hope for the remaining 28 days of this campaign that I'm going to change the debate that the three of us, and Bob Otten, if he's present, have, so that we are addressing the full constitutional and statutory function of the Secretary of State. So again, those are going to be things where we need to work well with our partners in the streamline of registering a business, federal, state, and local. We need the technology that provides us the means to execute those functions. Again, these are all done online typically these days, so we're going there. We're going to make it easy for you. And then having the qualified and trained personnel in those state offices that do that. That's where I come from. I know there's a lot of great employees in the state, and I know I can work with them and our partners to make sure that we're providing opportunity, whether it's in the election system, whether it's in the economy, in the form of setting up a business, whether it's providing critical services such as the Safe at Home program for victims of domestic abuse or other types of threatening behavior. I'm excited. I hope you're all excited after hearing this debate and you see the opportunities, not for me in this office, but the opportunities that I want to speak to for all of you. So thank you.
Mr. Helen. Mr. Severson.
Thank you. A great question. And one of the things that we've done as we move forward in this campaign is we've put on our website the first 100 days. My commitment to you as a citizen in Minnesota is that I've laid out 7 instances, there's 7 programs in the first 100 days that I will initiate. The first one is to audit the election system. One of the other ones is to put together a panel on a citizen side that basically takes successful entrepreneurs, business people who are in their senior years, they're getting ready to check out, and I've met a lot of them. Instead of going down to Florida, stay here and then engage some of the new minority communities, those entrepreneurs and business people who want to get engaged in our economy here. Sit down together and say, okay, how can we use the experience of the older to figure out what are the barriers that you, coming from another country, you're trying to do business here, are they legislative, are they laws, are they licensing, certifications, what are these barriers that we can identify? And then from that, take it to the legislature and say, you know what, if we are serious about giving everybody an opportunity in Minnesota, then let's get rid of these barriers. And I think there's a tremendous amount of talent with these individuals who want to give back, and a tremendous amount of need in these communities who really don't know exactly how to engage in the entrepreneurial arena in America. And so I think this is a huge opportunity for us, and it's not a government-funded program. But that's why, again, I see the Secretary of State as an ambassadorial role where we can move on the business side to help companies work better together and to integrate some of these newcomers. And it's not a win-lose situation. When we help, all boats rise, our economy gets better, jobs are generated, and families live on a higher standard of living. So that's part of the vision that I have in this whole process. Again, there are a number of things that have been implemented that need to be reversed. One is the UCC filings that Secretary Ritchie has now pulled in as of December into the Secretary of State office and shut down all the satellite facilities out of state. The problem with that is, in these counties, the county recorder, the county treasurer, typically will, if a farmer has a lien on his property, has a lien on some equipment, they have to register that so that it's filed, so that if someone wants to go and purchase it, they know there's a lien on it. Now that's Universal Commercial Code filing. And when someone has to do that, they typically go down to their local county seat and they do that. Now the Secretary of State has moved that down to St. Paul to file online, or if you have problems, you're going to have to go down to St. Paul to get it taken care of. That is in direct opposition to the concepts of our founding fathers, where the best government is local government. The most responsive government is local government, where you can go down and you can meet face-to-face with someone. You don't have to drive 2-3 hours. Think about being up in Lakeland Woods or up in northern Minnesota or down in Albert Lea. You're going to drive 2 and 3 hours to stand in line at the Secretary of State's office so that you can file for this UCC, and then they tell you, well, you can't go, you're going to have to go over to the Department of Labor over here before we can help you out. And then you go over there to file. You have cut out a day of business. Instead, you go to your local treasurer, your auditor, they interface with the Secretary of State's office, they know who to get a hold of. That's a great example of not centralizing government and giving all the power in one place, but disseminating it out. I think our Secretary of State has moved in the wrong direction on that. I would reverse that. One of the first actions I do, put it back out to the counties and ensure that the government that's best for them is the government that's closest. And I really believe that there are a number of actions that we can perform that can help the economy in terms of the Secretary of State office acting as an advocate for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and those businesses who are finding it hard to survive in this high-taxed environment. Get that legislation to the legislature and make the case and say, you know what, if you're really serious about helping out people, pass this law.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. You see, I can't be rude. They
No,
won't be rude. I don't have a go with anybody. Mr. Simon, can we have your comments, please?
Absolutely. It's a great question. It's a broad question, but a great question. I would say a few things come to mind in terms of challenges and opportunities. First is to expand access to voting. Now, we do a really good job in Minnesota, okay? We do a really good job. First in the nation, 9 out of the last 9 elections in terms of turnout. That speaks highly of all of us. It means we've cultivated a culture here of participation of all kinds, including voting, and it means that we've, on the technical side, made sure we have laws in place, like no excuses absentee voting, the one that I worked on for so long, where we can all vote from home. But there's more to do, and I've talked about that in response to some of the other questions, things like streamlining voter registration, things like straight up early voting, and I think those are important as well. And trying to tackle the participation gap. As I said, we should be proud, all of us in Minnesota, that we vote in presidential years somewhere in the mid-70%. I mean, that's almost unheard of. It's almost off the charts compared to most states. But it's not uniform. It's not uniform across geographic communities or demographic communities, so we got to work on that. Second, I would say we have to remove existing barriers to voting. Now, I got to tell you, I think it is the responsibility of the Office of Secretary of State to protect and defend and to strengthen the right to vote and to speak up and speak out when there are people who want to make it harder unnecessarily, as by putting up new burdens, new barriers, new hoops, new hurdles, and I don't think we need those kinds of things, and I don't think we need a warmed over version of what Minnesotans rejected 2 years ago in terms of a harsh photo ID regime. Third, I think we need to modernize business services. It is a big part of the office. The office is more than just a glorified filing cabinet. It's a place where people really do commerce and do business. And the things we can do that are future-oriented and forward-thinking, things like a better web portal so that businesses, large and small, can make use of it, not just to get filing information, but maybe they get a tax ID number in there. Maybe they get information about property if they intend to establish a physical presence in Minnesota when they're starting a business. There are other things we can do to strengthen that function of the office that harnesses and that uses technology. I mean, just think about it. I have an iPhone 5 right here. Now the 6 just came out. To some of you in the room, I'm probably already a dinosaur, right? And so the pace of technology is so fast. We've got to keep up with it. There's no reason why the government of the state of Minnesota shouldn't do that. Next, I would say we have to strengthen the protection for victims of domestic violence. I think Bob mentioned the Safe at Home program. I think this is something we can all agree on. I don't think you'll see much difference here among the three of us candidates here. There's a program called the Safe at Home program that's run through the Secretary of State. Very much a bipartisan effort. I don't know anyone who's against it. And it's a program that is essentially an address anonymity program or address confidentiality program for victims of domestic violence. And if you get a piece of paper from a judge that says you are in danger, then you can have your address anonymous. And that's sort of, voting is part of that, meaning you can't look someone up on the voting rolls and find out where they live, because very often people who are in danger obviously don't want their abuser to find them. And so this is a program run through the Secretary of State's office that gives women real protection, not just in voting, but in where their utility bill is mailed to, where their magazine subscriptions are mailed to, and I think all three of us, I think we can say unanimously support that. I've carried legislation in the past to make that stronger, and I'm proud of that. And then finally, I would say, and most importantly, we've got to have a Secretary of State for all Minnesotans. Always a challenge for the person who's there. Yes, we run with party labels. I'm a Democrat. Mr. Severson's a Republican. Mr. Helen is Independence Party. And I suspect we're all proud of our party labels. But that's got to stop, and you got to check that at the door, so to speak, when you're administering elections in particular. You got to be fair. You got to be an honest broker. You've got to inspire the trust and confidence of those across Minnesota who are part of the system, even if they don't agree with you, especially if they don't agree with you on other issues. You got to inspire that trust and confidence. That's a constant challenge and a constant priority, and will be mine if I'm Secretary of State. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Simon.